It's time for the Newsmaker Show on News Talk AM 1480 WLEA. Here's Kevin Doran.
Brian O'Neill filling in for Kevin Doran this morning on the Newsmaker Show. Hornell Mayor Shawn Hogan in the studio with us live today. Mayor Hogan, thanks for coming in.
My pleasure, Brian, on this foggy Monday morning.
The Tribune reported on this. We haven't done a lot with it here at WLEA. The controversy over Senator Schumer's Alstom announcement. There was some back and forth between Reed's office and Schumer's office there. I've kind of stayed away with that. We didn't want to do anything to really jeopardize the deal. I don't know if it would have, but I was a little fearful of that. Since that news broke, I've spoken with all sides, left, right, pro-Schumer, the Alstom bigwigs. Everybody says that whatever happened, the deal with Amtrak and Alstom is a sure thing. It's definitely going to happen. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, I think that Senator Schumer got out ahead of it a little bit, but obviously a senator with his seniority and in the Senate, possibly, I mean, they're going to be the number 2 man or number 1 man if the Democrats take control of the Senate. I think he probably had a heads up from Amtrak officials, and he wouldn't have come here and made an announcement if he thought he was going to have egg on his face. So I think it's much to do about nothing. I think that the contract will be awarded, and it's going to happen, if not in December, the first of the year, well, they'll sign the official contract. So, I can't speak for the senator, other than the fact that I didn't think he would show up here on a Monday morning in September and make that announcement if he didn't have the facts to back it up.
Do you have any sense of when we can expect to hear that the deal has been officially signed?
Well, I would say sometime in December or January, and because they want to start taking delivery of some of these train sets by 2017. And as everyone knows, there's a ramp up to this process. You just don't start manufacturing these trains. There's a engineering and process and prototype process that you have to build a prototype to work out all the kinks if there are going to be any. So, and there's a lot to be done yet as far as providing the necessary infrastructure locally to make this happen. So I'm confident, and I'm thrilled, and I'm more thrilled for the region, the city, and the region, and the state, because this is what I call a transformational economic development project.
Why do you say that?
Well, it's huge, and this is all brand new technology. So you'll have young engineers on the ground floor of learning technology, which is the best in the world as far as high-speed train technology. It gives them an opportunity to develop a strong base here in the U.S., and the future of rail transportation in this country is definitely going to be high-speed rail.
St. James Hospital, anything new there?
Other than a lot of people working a lot of hours and dedicating a lot of time to ensuring the success of the hospital. We know that inpatient care is ramped up. They've had as many as 20 people in the hospital at one time, and going from the potential of not having any to 20 inpatient beds is a fantastic transformation. Obviously, there's work to be done. The hospital was severely mismanaged with the old administration, and it was not planning for the future, because from 2005 right up to when they walked out the door, the parent organization that the St. James was affiliated with intended to either sell the hospital or close it. So if you're not working to protect your market share and you're not doing anything to plan for the future, you get what we got here locally, which was a hospital that almost succumbed to mismanagement. Fortunately, we found a partner, the University of Rochester Medical Center, who is providing some invaluable help to us through a medical director, Dr. Ray Mashewski, Patty Murray, who is the helping with our clinical aspect of it with the director of nursing. We have some of the best in the business here assisting us, and we're making great progress. The issue is that we still have to create some money savings. We have to reduce our expenditures and increase our revenues to show the state that this is a viable operation without their financial assistance. And the state's going to want to see that, and we're working hard to make sure that that happens.
Elections coming up in November. The list of candidates?
Well, there's only one contested race in the city of Hornell.
Let me rephrase the question then.
Yeah, right. Okay.
The list of candidates.
Well, the candidates, it's all the incumbents on the Common Council are running, and that leaves one open seat, which would be that of Dan McManus in the 6th Ward, who decided not to run again. So that's going to be a contested race between the Republican candidate Jessica Cleveland, was a very nice young lady, and also on the Democratic side, Barry Young, who is a very nice young man, a lifelong resident of the city. And so that should be a spirited race based on issues and the commitment of the candidates to serving their neighborhood and their ward. So that should be an interesting race. There's no other. I think Randy Weaver's running for county legislature, and he's uncontested. So there's not a lot of contested races this year. It's an off year. Next year, obviously, is a presidential year, and also U.S. Senate race here. Senator Schumer will be up. So that should make for a much more interesting and spirited election season.
A Steuben County question for you. District Attorney Brooks Baker expected to speak at the Steuben County Public Safety Committee meeting this morning in Bath, and he'll be talking about the recent drug arrest. Did you know? Had you spoken with Brooks about that?
No, I have not.
Okay. No. Talking with Hornell Mayor Shawn Hogan. Congressman Tom Reed's opponent, John Plum, he announced some weeks ago that he's running against Reed. We caught up with Matt Zeller over the weekend. Zeller, the former Democrat candidate for Congress who ran against Reed in 2010. Zeller is running an organization called No One Left Behind. He says he's got 9 chapters going, one of them in Rochester. Sounds like a great thing that he's doing. Now, before we got on the air with Matt Zeller, we were talking on the phone. Zeller spoke very highly of John Plum and all his background, which is an impressive military and government resume. Anything new in the John Plum race for the House?
Other than that, he is doing what most candidates for federal office do, spending most of his time trying to raise money so he can run a spirited, issue-oriented campaign. You got to remember, this race isn't until next November, so you'll see, I think, a lot more activity and much more of John Plum after the first of the year. I know John's been out there. He was here. We had our Steuben County Democratic picnic back on August 22nd here in the city, and John came and gave a great speech. He had a great crowd. We had about 150 people there, and he was well received. So as people find out more and more about John Plum's curriculum vitae or his resume and his past service to this country and the submarine service, and the fact that he was a very high-ranking official in the Defense Department and National Security Agency, they'll find that he brings a wealth of experience and knowledge of federal issues.
Moving on to state issues, you don't weigh in on Common Core very often, but I did want to ask you this. What did you think of Governor Andrew Cuomo setting up a Common Core review panel? Seems that when I did a little Google search on all the members, it seems that they're both pro and anti when you look at the list of people. Some are for it, some are against it. Your take on the governor getting involved in fixing Common Core?
Well, I think that the Common Core, I don't think Common Core, the premise of Common Core is bad. What Common Core is trying to do is look at things differently to develop more analytical thinking in this world that is more science, technical, engineering, and math oriented. STEM, they call it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think the issue that was very poorly rolled out by the state education department didn't give a lot of people a lot of time to prepare for it, particularly teachers. I think our young kids can adapt to most anything, and some have embraced it. I don't think it's something we should be afraid of or run from. I think we should try to make it better. And anytime that you make an issue becomes polarized, with one camp firmly entrenched in their thinking and the other camp firmly entrenched in their thinking, it doesn't make for a pretty stew. I think the governor's on the right track with having teachers and involved in this commission and other officials in the state government and out-of-state government to give it a sincere and thorough review and then change course if you need to change course. But I don't think the premise of making asking our students, our young people, to start thinking more analytically is wrong. The way it was rolled out, the way it was implemented too quickly, with not a lot of information shared with teachers or parents, that was wrong. This is a very important aspect of education, and it should have been much more professionally done. That part, there's no excuse for. But I think, hopefully, with this commission, you'll see some changes that will right the playing field for all the interests in this case, and the only beneficiaries will be our young people, our students.
The governor has been calling for more gun control since last week's Oregon shootings. The president on the same page. You're on the what is NICOM? Wondering, does NICOM weigh in on this at all? The New York Committee of Mayors.
Well, there's a lot of members of the Conference of Mayors that are members of Mayors Against Illegal Handguns, which was started by Michael Bloomberg. I was a member. They since shifted gears, and it's called Mothers Against Illegal Handguns. So they've kind of changed the premise of it. But, yeah, we know that people who currently have access to guns that shouldn't have access to them is a problem. That's why I support background checks, and a waiting period, which I think is common sense. I mean, I would defend the right of a person to own a firearm, or the Second Amendment rights. But there's common sense to this too. People talk about some big biblical stories or that just don't make sense. Well, it made sense at the time because the people in biblical times were not literate or not able to read or write, and so they had to make up proverbs or make a point with a story. And that's the same thing with our Constitution. When the Constitution was created well over 200 some years ago, it was a different time in a different set of circumstances. I will defend the right of people to own guns, but I don't think that there's any problem with tightening rules and regulations as far as background checks and things of that nature. So I think we have to come together as a nation and find common ground. Like I say, you have two polarized groups. You have the NRA, and you have those people who want to see something progressive and something common sense done. And it's just, they're shouting back and forth, and no one's hearing the message. And the NRA has stopped being a gun safety organization and more of a lobbying organization for the gun industry. And when I was a kid, I used to go to NRA gun safety classes. It was a well-respected agency. It's morphed into something different than that. And so I think this country's got to come together, got to make some, have some strong common sense conversations and work to find a solution to this problem together, both sides.
We're talking with Hornell Mayor Shawn Hogan. We've talked local and state pretty much so far. We'll talk with the mayor on the national races coming up, especially the race for the White House. When we get back on the Newsmaker show, Brian O'Neill filling in for Kevin Doran.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. At least 7 known dead on the eastern seaboard from storms in recent days, much of the damage in South Carolina.
One of the hardest hit areas is the state capital, Columbia, pummeled with about a foot of rain over the weekend. The floodwaters destroying hundreds of homes and businesses. Hundreds of National Guard troops were also deployed to help with recovery efforts.
Fox's Joel Waldman. The Coast Guard resuming its search for a cargo ship and crew of 33 caught in Hurricane Joaquin near the Bahamas. The Guard's Brian Doss.
The hurricane has moved off out further north into the Atlantic, so we're really able to get in there to really hit it hard with everything we've got, trying to find out what happened to the El Faro, where the crew may be.
Authorities have not confirmed debris found in the area came from the ship. An appeals court hears arguments today in the case of Ray Nagin, the ex-New Orleans mayor serving a 10-year prison term for wire fraud, bribery, and other crimes. Fox News, we report, you decide.
The Newsmaker Show with Kevin Doran, AM 1480 WLEA.
Brian O'Neill filling in for Kevin Doran on Today Live with Hornell Mayor Shawn Hogan. The latest polls from the Wall Street Journal in Iowa. Clinton 33, Sanders 28, Biden 22, O'Malley 3. Hillary obviously still there on the top. Can those email computer issues stop her campaign?
Well, I think at this juncture, that horse has been ridden, pretty hard by the opposition, and it's had some impact, but it hasn't been the death knell they're hoping to. And of course, we all know the snafu that Kevin McCarthy pulled last week, when he kind of said publicly what everyone else was thinking, that the Benghazi hearings were more or less a political hatchet job. Whether they were or weren't, now there's too much of a shadow or a dark cloud over the proceedings, and the whole process is jaded. So I think that Hillary has survived the Benghazi, which I don't think there was a lot there. I think that was, a bunch of political rhetoric. The email situation, what she was doing was legal at the time, and other officials also did it. So they had 2 email accounts, a government and a personal email account. So it wasn't anything illegal, and some of the emails that are now being classified as, security, having a security clearance or risk, that's now, not then. So, and Hillary's apologized. How many times do you have to apologize? She said she had to do over again. It was probably a bad decision on her part, and she's apologized. I think Americans want to hear what these candidates are going to do or propose to do for the future of our country, the future of our children, and how they plan about going about it. And that's what we want to hear. And the same thing goes for the Republican candidates. Now, I've watched the 2 debates, and that's been a 3-ring circus. It reminds me, that Republican debate reminds me of the bar scene in Star Wars. It's just that bizarre. And so we've got to get serious as a people and demand better from our candidates. And yes, we're a year away from a general election, but we definitely have to, as the electorate, force a better conversation and a more thorough conversation during the presidential campaigns.
Do you think Kevin McCarthy is all done in his hopes for moving up in the House?
I don't know. I'm not that much of a student of what goes on in the House politics, but I'm sure he's going to be challenged. In fact, I think that Chivetz from Utah has announced that he's going to challenge him.
And I noticed when I had Congressman Reed on over the weekend, he's still not endorsing McCarthy.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to come down to it. They may not be able to reach a decision. I think the House is split, and it's unfortunate because the Republican split in the House has kind of stifled any legislation in this country to move the country forward.
Did you notice that the National Education Association came out in favor of Hillary Clinton's campaign over the weekend?
I did not know that, but that doesn't surprise me.
Obama, like Governor Cuomo, and we talked about this earlier in the show, wants more gun control nationwide. Does that help the next Democrat candidate for the presidency?
I don't know. I think that if you took a poll, I think the American people are polarized on this issue. I think a vast majority agree with some type of common sense gun legislation that would include background checks and a waiting period and other issues. And, I think there's got to be a conversation. I think after Newtown, Joe Manchin from Manchin from West Virginia and Pat Toomey from Pennsylvania, they really had a common sense gun legislation that was bipartisan, and two leaders from two states that are very big in recreational hunting and people who really are in support gun ownership. And they had a great proposal. It didn't make it. And that just goes for the power of the lobby of the NRA. And I'm telling you, I've been subject to that because when I signed up for the Mayors Against Illegal Handguns, I got thousands of postcards from members of the NRA that they sent out to their members to have them send to me, who I'm just a small-town mayor who just happened to sign up for with a group of mayors nationwide who were mayors against illegal handguns. And they targeted me. So I know how they operate, and I know that they're very aggressive in their lobbying efforts. And I just think that people has to say enough is enough. Let's sit down and have a serious conversation, and let's make sure no other families are faced with tragedy of this magnitude that could have been prevented.
The Pope's recent trip to the United States, kind of a role reversal. The liberal media was much warmer to the Pope than the conservative media was. Any thoughts there?
Well, I think the Pope has a great message. He has a great message. It's a Christian message. And it's a message of living the Gospels. It's non-judgmental. Look for don't look for the splinter in your another man's eye. Look for the log in your own. Non-judgmental, very compassionate message, forgiveness and help for the poor and help for those who are downtrodden or need some assistance. Like St. Francis of Assisi said, go forth and preach the gospel. Use words if necessary. What's he saying? Live by your actions of the gospel of the Christian gospel. So I think the message of the Pope is right on, and I think that that's one that we all have to embrace, whether you're Catholic, whether you're Protestant, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Muslim. That should be the message everyone embraces. And every religion is based on that type of tenet, which is be good, do good, love one another.
Ornell Mayor Shawn Hogan, we're down to just 60 seconds. Was there anything I did not bring up that you wanted to cover?
I don't know. You got a full plate there, Brian. You did pretty good in a few short minutes.
All righty. Ornell Mayor Shawn Hogan, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
And coming into the studio live, it's AM 1480 WLEA. Just finished up an interview with Hornell Mayor Shawn Hogan. That'll be online in just a few minutes as soon as we can get it posted online on our website, like all the Newsmaker shows are, WLEA.net. And that's also the place you can see Hornell High School football live on Friday nights, WLEA.net, 9 o'clock.
Jim Bohannon, 5 a.m. to 6. Gordon Deal, 6 to 8. The Newsmaker Show after the 8:30 news. Kilmeade and Friends, 9 to noon. Rush Limbaugh, noon till 3. Sean Hannity, 3 to 6. Bill Nojay, 6 p.m. Lars Larson, 7 to 10. The Jim Bohannon Show from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. John Batchelor, 1 to 5 a.m. AM 1480 WLEA Hornell, where news comes first.